I would like to tell our viewers from your medium that why it is so necessary that when I'm in my 40s, I need to look at what are my retirement plans, insurance plans. Why is this financial planning is very important when someone is in 40s?
Hey, Srishti, hi. I think 40s is a time, or early 40s or 40 itself is specifically half your life or working life almost over. Most of us start working at 25. Most of us work till 60 actively. Maybe we'll continue in some ways post that, but actively, mostly people will end at 60 or would like to end before that. So you're in midst of right in the middle of your working life, and I think most of us would have seen possibly a good healthy growth in our incomes over last decade or so, and possibly will be expecting more of a modest growth from here on, because the base that you would possibly reach at 40 would be possibly high enough to make you feel that earning like a 15% annual increment for another decade every year may be very, very difficult for most of the people around. So if you think about those constraints that you are not going to be able to increase your income exponentially as you possibly did earlier, and the responsibilities that you have in your 40s actually are quite daunting for most of us, where you have to have a family to support, you have a children's education, you may have aging parents to look after in terms of health expenditure, and maybe you would actually need to contribute significantly for retirement. And these four things can actually add up quite a significant burden on your financial if you don't plan for them. So I think it becomes a very good juncture to really assess what you have actually done over last decade or so when you reach 40, and how would you plan your next 2 decades with your finances. It's a good time to really kind of take a step back and realize also that most of the mistakes that you have done may not be undone right now, because of the time remaining is possibly less compared to what you had when you were in 30s.
Well, yes, absolutely. This may give our viewers some kind of a sense that when you are in your 40s, which are the set of responsibilities and challenges that you should be going with. But Santosh, you rightly mentioned that at 40, we are just in the midst. We have worked maybe a decade or so, and going forward, another 2 decades are lined up. But one has to look and plan for their retirements. What should be the strategy if one hasn't started onto their retirement planning?
Yeah, so I think Srishti, most of the India is actually below 30 in terms of even the viewers who are watching it, maybe possibly a lot of people below 30. So retirement doesn't really connect as a financial goal or life goal one would want to save for. But I think as you reach late 30s, some people realize in mid 30s, some people will realize probably in early 40s that retirement is possibly the most important goal, not because it is actually kind of a stage of life where you don't earn income, but it's a stage of life where you for decades don't earn income. And if you even have a thought about that, if you're going to live 20, 30 years more post retirement, which is what most of us would do, given that medical advancements or expected life that people are living is actually so long that even a 20-year may sound small today. So when you think about the fact that you fund 30 years of working life or non-working life, and every expenditure should be planned for or available to you to live a no compromise lifestyle, it can add up to significant sum. I'll just give one example here. Even a modest 50,000 rupees per month expenditure, if you're doing today, and you expect most of it will continue even in your non-working life, at a 6% inflation, this grows to almost 1.6 lakh rupees per month. And if you add up that number for a year, almost 20 lakh rupees sum is coming for you. So if you think that in year one of retirement, you need to have 20 lakh rupees and you don't earn any penny in terms of active income, then thinking about the fact that this 20 lakh rupees will keep increasing for next 30 years in some form or other can add up to a very large corpus that you require on the last day of working life. And only a careful planning towards achieving that corpus can get you there. You can't reach that number without planning about it.
Well, yes, absolutely. And that was a very interesting maths you brought for our viewers. When you're in 40s, how do you go about, how do you plan your expenses and then manage to invest? And definitely the compounding rule will also work for you. But Santosh, you were highlighting some of the responsibilities while you answer our first question. And in that, we get to have responsibilities when it comes to parents, when it comes to children, and so on and so forth. But insurance is something that we take not just for ourselves, but for our kids and our family members too. How should one reevaluate this when in 40s?
So, Shishi, there is a, simple concept of insurance, and it's all how conservative or realistic you want to apply it for. So, typically, the world has looked at what is your income and applying some kind of multiple on your annual income and saying that this is what you should plan for. So, if you're earning like say 25 lakh rupees per annum when you reach 40, then you should be planning at least an insurance of 2.5 crore. Now that may be sufficient, may not be sufficient if you look at from the traditional perspective. What is important to know is what kind of money minimum you require to ensure your family can continue living a life that they deserve or they aspire for. So even if you cut down the extravagant expenditure that you may be doing once in a while, what you cannot take your eyes off is there are some important financial goals that you would not be able to achieve at 40. So for example, for most of us, in fact almost everybody, nobody will be able to get rid of children's education goal that needs to plan by the time one is 40. That means most of us possibly are expecting their children to actually graduate or finish their post-graduation in early 50s or late 50s, depending on when you plan your first kid. And similarly, you would possibly be, even if be having enough money for yourself, you need to ensure that if you are not there and your spouse survives, and he or she needs to really spend another 20-30 years without any kind of income, then what kind of amount that would be. And third piece is you may have some kind of financial liabilities, your home loan or a personal loan, any kind of loan that you may have taken, your family would have to pay for if you suddenly kind of pass away in that sense. So most people don't like to think about all these large sums, but ultimately insurance should at least take care of these kind of responsibilities for your family in case you're not there. So if you add up these numbers, depending on what stage of your life in terms of your financial stage you are, this amount may vary from 2 crore to even 5 crore. So you need to ensure that you need to figure out whether you have that sufficient insurance cover or not. And if you are falling short of this amount, go and increase your insurance cover right away. You also need to take care of the fact that if you decide to really go on your own and take a break from the working life as a salaried employee, then you may lose access to health insurance. And actually, we recommend you should have your own health insurance policy. So in case you lose a job, you don't want to work anymore in active employment and do something on your own, you will lose that benefit completely. So that health insurance is something which people ignore a lot. And I think that possibly can surprise you a lot more in 40s than it can surprise you early. So assess your needs on health insurance and term insurance and ensure that you actually have sufficient coverage.
Absolutely, nobody of us wants to actually think about the fact that one day we can be vanishing. Life is uncertain, but life insurance as well as health insurance is very much important, not for just you, but for your family as well. But Santosh, as we have been touching upon the family members, the expenses related to that, child education is one of the big expenses, I must say, because the fees is going skyrocketing. I just can't imagine when I'm going to have a child, what kind of maths and investments I will be doing it. But given the calculation that you can bring for our viewers, is that how should one go about in terms of planning? What should be the target fund when it comes to child education? When in 40s, assuming that the child is not that big, going for some college education or some high secondary education. So right from the start, how should the planning be like, and what should be like the monthly investments if you have a number?
Yeah, so it depends what kind of profession, what kind of area you are planning your children's career in, or your child is planning his or her own career in. So it all math around that, but maybe because most of the Indians understands engineering and medical degree. Let's take engineering as an example. About a decade ago, Shishti, most of us could have really graduated as an engineer with about 4 lakh rupees of total expenditure in tuition fees and college fees. But if you look at today, that number is almost 10 lakh rupees for most of the colleges. If you think about the inflation there, it's almost about 10%. And if this kind of inflation continues in engineering education, then you can actually assume or possibly expect that you are going to shell out like another 45 lakh rupees of sum to actually pay for engineering degree for your children's education on that side. So planning this number is extremely important. Now, I would say suggest two simple steps on this. One is ensure that you have minimum insurance cover specifically dedicated for this goal in life. So if you are if you this sum which 45 lakh rupees for engineering looks about different for your a child's preferred career path, you maybe require a crore after 15 years or 10 years or 20 years, whatever the number may be. Ensure that you don't just invest towards in some kind of monthly SIP or any kind of periodic investments, but first thing, and go and ensure this goal for yourself, because if you're not there tomorrow, your child will not be suffering by compromising on the career that he or she wanted to pursue. So take an insurance cover first for that goal, and then start simultaneously investing towards that goal. If you get to that goal early and you don't require insurance cover anymore, maybe you can discontinue the policy altogether. But these both paths are must, in my opinion, to ensure you basically plan well for a child's education.
Yes, absolutely. I think 42 is not a bad number to target for, 42 lakhs for a child education. And if you want to plan that in next 15 years, that's the target for you, then at a minimum of 8,400, you can start the monthly SIP. So that's the mass. But Santosh, none of us wants to think over the fact that one day we will be dying and we have a family behind us. But why 40s? Why should one think of creating a will, making a will when in 40s?
Yes, so Srishti, I think we talked about in one of the shows in the past that India actually has, another problem altogether, where a lot of people actually have not nominated somebody for their bank accounts or life insurance policies or investments for matter, even if and when they pass away. And that money actually is a very sizable, upwards of 100,000 kind of lakh crore. That money is lying completely unclaimed, and there's a reverse problem for most of the people as well, where they put nominee, but then they don't really update their information as the life stage changes. And typically in a joint family kind of setup, even if you're staying nuclear, a lot of families actually expect something to be given to everybody if the main income earner actually is no more. And sometimes in cases it leads to family disputes between relatives and family members about who owns what kind of assets and position of an income earner. And if you can solve this problem where if you are not there, your family is actually quite clear who owns what in terms of position or assets that you may have, it becomes a far nicer scenario to plan for. And I think will plays the most important role there. And while it's very uncomfortable topic to think about what will happen if you're not there and whom do you want to give what, but it actually can do a lot of justice to your own life that you have lived, to ensure that your family continues to live in an uncompromising manner. So you need to ensure a legal documentation about what you want to distribute and how you want to distribute. And I think if you do that well, that legally binding document can supersede a lot of mistakes that you may have done, a lot of oversight that you may have expressed or unknowingly done in managing your investments or savings for that matter. So I think legal document in the form of will is actually a must for once you reach 40s in life. And if you're sizable assets, all the more important.
Well, yes. Yes, absolutely. Till now, Santosh, we have discussed about all those expenditures that we should be looking out for when at 40s and investment plans as well. But becoming debt free is what we always aim for, and we do take some car loan or personal loan or even home loan. Some people take to accomplish that goal. But once that goal is achieved, we have the debt carrying forward. Why in 40s should we give it all in getting a debt-free status?
Yes, so Srishti, I think debt is basically a form of opposite of compounding, which happens to your kind of wealth if you don't manage it carefully. So most of us actually have home loans, in mid 30s, late 30s, sometimes early 40s as well. I think it takes away a lot of chunk of of our savings, and it doesn't allow us to really invest in our future. Now, while you may not be able to do a lot with respect to home loans because the sums they're involved are pretty large, but what you can do is your lifestyle expenditure that you take loans for, like a personal loan or for that matter a car loan and things like that, you should basically avoid taking debt in first place because they add to your monthly expenditure and kind of basically take you away from your goals in the form of not allowing you to invest enough every month. And we discussed how those goals are large enough already. So if you avoid taking loans, you would be able to do two things. One is you'll be spending only that you can afford, and second is basically if you manage it well, then your savings goal will not be achieved, will be kind of achieved properly. So being debt free is extremely important at that juncture. And if you add up a debt, another debt of a sizable amount in your 40s, you're doing two kind of problems. One is you're taking a debt, and second is you basically are increasing the requirement of an insurance towards that debt, because as you age in life, the chance or something which can happen to you, the chances are very high. And if you don't plan for that debt, who will pay off in case you're not there? It can add to financial woes for the family. So avoiding taking debt because it will actually add up to insurance requirements is one of the reasons you should actually can avoid for.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.